Hello, my friends. Obviously, you can see Wes McArtor back there on my interactive board. Hey, I just want to come out real quick and talk about the webinar that we had, Making Lemons Out of Lemonade. And you know, that first one was last Thursday, and Wes McArtor talked about NextAir and some of the data. But Wes, how are you doing, man?
Doing excellent, Ray. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, I just wanted to come on because I heard that was one of the biggest webinars in the history of the Imaging Channel. I know it was for you, but tell us a little bit about the attendance and what your thoughts were from the webinar.
Well, you're right. For me personally and professionally, it was the largest attended webinar I have ever done. I was excited because the list was really a who's who of a lot of what I consider the VIPs in the imaging channel. So it was great to see that they're interested, and it was great to see them engaged in the process.
Well, that's fantastic, and I know you're doing some of those evaluations. We talked about that a little bit. But Wes, here's the deal. You said something on that webinar, and I don't know if y'all caught this or not, but what he said was, we really don't know what we're returning to. Are returning to 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% of our original business. And to me, that was a real slap in the face. Holy crap, we're not going back to 100. Of course, I've been screaming that for a long time. But to hear you say that is a little bit sombering, and everybody can have their different opinion about where we're going to go when this is all over. But we know we're going into an economic mess, and we also know that the only thing we can do if we can't get income is to cut cost. So, is there anything, how do we drive this message home and make it more about the real dollars? If you took a dealer of that average $5 to $8 million, $10 million dealership, what are some of the things they can do right now to get them cash? Because it's all about cash.
Well, I think obviously, as we mentioned in the webinar, inventory is a huge problem for most dealers. So there's a significant amount of money sitting on the shelf that should not be there. It should be in the bank. And it should be there to help support their personnel and the team that they need to have together to do their job. On top of that, there's also opportunities for especially the smaller dealers to look at outsourcing potential tasks that they do and don't do well. When we've done some of these evaluations already, we noticed that their expertise in, for example, their ERP, because they've been trained by somebody who was trained by somebody who was trained by the manufacturer of the ERP, and they lost continuity along the way, and so therefore their ERPs aren't maintained as well as they need to be. Bring that out and put it someplace where we can do a better job with it and cut costs while we're doing it. But in the mode of that, if you're not coming back, you should be setting up strategies now going, what if we come back at 40%? What if we come back at 50? What if we come back at 60? What does my team look like that I have to have in place to handle that business? Because I can't do it with 100% of my team and only 60% of my revenue. So I've got to decide which team members I bring back. How do I structure my teams differently in order to accommodate that change? And that's part of what this whole process was about. How do I evaluate my service team to bring back those individuals that represent the biggest productivity for me so that I can service my customers at whatever level that comes back to?
Well, I got to tell you, you spent your life trying to change behaviors around the service department and try to help dealers recapture some of that revenue. And I know when I spent that 10 months with you, you guys had a service where you would actually look at the inventories dealers had, and then they could share that inventory amongst each other. Are you still doing that? Is that still up and running?
Yes, absolutely. Part of the evaluation process is that once we bring the data in, we'll automatically be able to identify and age 100% of the inventory accurately. So in most cases, ERPs manage obsolescence as a function of usage. We don't do it solely on usage. We actually look at what kind of equipment's left in the field that could use it.
Okay.
Because you might have used one, therefore it's not obsolete. But if you only have one piece of equipment left in the field, it's obsolete even faster than you think. Because the second you've used that, you're done. So it's really about looking at the inventory and the potential equipment out there that can use that inventory.
Well, now I want to make a clarification too, because these parts aren't like third-party parts. There's probably some third-party parts, but there's a lot of OEM parts in there too that you guys swap back and forth to help dealers out. So I just want to make sure dealers understand that, because if you're sitting on, 18 months worth of inventory or 12 months worth of inventory, there's no better time than to liquidate some of that and put that cash in your bank. And there's probably dealers out there that can use some of these parts. Your software helps distinguish exactly that. So Let me ask you a question. Have you seen any major changes in the software or the behavior of the technicians through this? I mean, obviously we're not doing any calls. The calls dropped off. But do you see anything that's startling that's telling you that people are really paying attention to data more than they were before?
No, I don't see a huge, I mean, obviously in our customer base, there have been calls and needs for asking and getting some of the questions answered as to what's going on. But everybody is literally feels like they're sequestered. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like the quarantine is that they're ducking and holding and waiting to see what's going to happen next rather than using this time to really start setting up the strategy for what do I look like when I come back. We would love to be more engaged with the clients and help them do these evaluations. The ones that have access to our data obviously might be doing that in the background and not necessarily calling us because they have all the information that they need. But we're surprised that not more people that were on the webinar were coming back for those evaluations, looking for that independence and objectiveness that they can't always get from their own internal systems.
Well, I would hope that they're doing that. And I was talking to another gentleman about solution selling and what people are training on. And, I think a lot of what we're doing is trying to find time for people to do stuff so we go back to doing what we were doing. I wrote an article this weekend. I said it's not about going back to a new normal. It's about creating the damn new normal. So hope, dealer owners, have your teams reach out to I know you got a great smart team out there at Nextera that'd be more than happy to help these people, even from a technician standpoint. Maybe some of the technicians that are in those D and C categories, or God forbid the F categories, they could be reaching out to your team to try to improve themselves. So,
Absolutely.
Wes, your data is extremely important. The Nextera data has really drove me in my mission on the A4 revolution, if you will. But the data doesn't lie. Data's unemotional, and I hope that dealer owners and dealers take this seriously. And it's always good to have you on and talk to you. And let's get through this. We're almost on the other side. Things are starting to open up again. But if we don't make changes in behavior and changes in managing data, there's no hope. If we decide that we're going to take advantage of the data that we have and do the things that are necessary to control our costs, then we can win in this. Wes, I'm going to let you go. Is there anything you want to say?
Well, I look forward to our next series on this webinar coming up on Thursday with Aaron. So if you haven't registered, please go out and get registered for that webinar. If you have any questions or concerns or want us to help you in any way, please reach out to us at Nextera and we'll be happy to help.
That's great. The CIA, the Clover Imaging Group Alliance, they put together. So the next webinar is Thursday. It's with Aaron Dick. It's going to be a great webinar. And then Norm's the following Thursday. So my friends, I'm going to end this like I always do. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo. Thanks, Wes.
All right. Thank you, Ray.